Hello and welcome to this episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us this week as we will be discussing Netflix's hit drama, Kdrama, The Uncanny Counter, which is about new unsuspecting noodle shop employees by day who moonlight as kick-ass demon hunters with special powers by night. This was a Tammy recommendation, and I must say, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would initially when I was watching it.
That's good to know.
If that makes sense. That sentence sounded off to me, but I did. The first few episodes, it took me a while. It took me a while to get into it, but I did. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would once I initially started watching it. So overall, what did you think of it? I know you liked it, obviously, because you recommended it. But
I loved it. I was excited when they said it was coming out on Netflix Saturday and Sunday. So 2 episodes per week. But I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. The last episode, I definitely saw the changes because there was some behind the scenes drama. The head writer ended up quitting the show. And that's because it became so popular that they greenlit a second season. And she didn't develop the show to go into a second season. I honestly think she was going to kill Samoon. I think that was her end game. But then when they told her they were going to go into a second season, he was such a popular character that they changed the end story. So you can see that. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was really good, emotional, great acting. Good.
That's rare that K-dramas get a second season like that. So was this one that was developed specifically for Netflix, like where they might be trying to do a different formula or multi-seasons? Or
no, it's actually very rare that these shows are developed for Netflix. No, Netflix just has a deal with, I think it's like one of the channels in Korea where, when they spend like $90 million or something like that on developing K-dramas. So they help them develop it, but it's not actually dramas made for Netflix. They're made for their TV channels like TVN and KBS and all that. And then they just premiere it the same day on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a thing. So, okay. But yeah, it wasn't supposed to get a second season. It definitely wasn't. You can tell because I started to feel around like episode 13, 14 that he was going to end up dying. Like the main character, like the way to end this series was going to be that he was going to give his life up in order, to basically save them from the evil spirits. And so when you saw the difference in the ending, I was just like, yeah, this was mainly because they're doing a second season and they're trying to figure it out. And the thing is, I don't even know if they're going to do a second season, seeing as how all that drama that came out with the main actor. I don't know if they're going to do a second season for that.
He was the main actor is one of the ones in the bullying scandals and stuff.
And he had to kind of had to go on a self hiatus because of that, because he couldn't fully prove that he was innocent in the bullying. So he kind of had to go 0 dark 30 for a while to kind of let the rumors and everything die down. And then I'm sure he's going to come back because he's a phenomenal actor. So I hope they don't lose him. But yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that he was one of the ones caught up in it. Well, the acting was great. I enjoyed the show. I did. It took me a while to get into it because initially, to me, the demon hunting in the beginning, it seemed to be the least interesting thing about the show. Like, I understood the powers. I understood why they had powers. I understood the whole purpose of the demon hunting. But it seemed to be, it took it a while for it to connect to everything else. It seemed almost kind of random, even though you knew that's what the show was supposed to be about. So especially in the beginning, the most compelling story to me was the story of the bullying in the high school, the relationships. I do like the way that they kind of brought it all full circle and they made it connect. I remember, I think I was telling you that as I was watching, I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep, it was what, I felt myself having a Tammy moment, like, okay, if this wasn't for the show, I would probably stop right here. And then, and then sometimes I was torn between that, okay, I'm having a full-fledged Tammy moment, or is this one of my lifetime, what I call the lifetime TV movie moment? Let me go ahead and finish it so I'll never be tempted to come back and watch it again. But I am glad that I stuck with it or stuck through it. I love the relationships in the show. Those were some of my favorites. Between the people at the noodle shop, the counters, I love them. I know we're going to talk about them more specifically in a minute, but I loved the relationship that he had with his grandparents. His grandma was hilarious. Even though So I have a question though. His grandma was straight up gangster. She was funny. So was she suffering from dementia, or did she just kind of lose? Was it the grief? Was it just over? She just kind of checked out, because towards the end, it seemed like she recovered. And so I'm like, at first I thought it was dementia, but then when she became lucid after the dream, after they dream walked her daughter and her husband, and she had that moment with them, she becomes even more lucid, and it's like, okay, the old grandma's back. So
I think it was both. I think that the death of her daughter kind of brought on her onset dementia, where she started to lose her memories and everything like that, like, because she shut down. I don't think she fully was cured once she had that dream, but I do think like she's gonna have more moments of kind of being aware of her surroundings and who is around her compared to before. I liked his grandma too. I thought she was badass. When she would steal his food, and then when she would like just hit him, it was like she was a little kid. Like who's raising who?
I love, like, one of my favorite moments is when she was like, "No, you're not my grandson. Go away." But then also when they were celebrating his birthday and his grandpa had bought him that beautiful cake, and then his grandma just took the cake and just threw it in his face.
Grandma was a G, yo.
I loved her. She was amazing. So, yeah, grandma was just cool. And I did like, I liked the relationship I did love the relationship with his grandparents, but I also loved the relationship with his best friends. They were ride or die. Like, no questions asked, whatever, they were there. And so I love them. And if it does truly get developed into a second season, I hope that we see more of his friends actually not necessarily becoming counters, but becoming more involved in that, since they understood. And he didn't, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't wipe their memories.
No, he did not.
No. Yeah. So I don't necessarily want them to become counters, but to have a bigger role maybe in helping with some of that and being more involved, because I liked how they were like working on anime or a cartoon or a comic book together, but then that kind of just fell by the wayside, and you understood that because being a counter kind of took over his life.
I was wondering if this boy ever went to school after he became a counter, because it was like he never, after it became like a real big thing, he never went to school. Like he was never in class at all. Like I was just like, is it kind of like because of the direction of the show, they just didn't show him in class, or did he really just never go to school?
I want to say there was an episode where they addressed it, and I'm with you. It's like, okay, did they kind of stop showing like that part, kind of like when his friends kind of fell off, they just stopped showing him going to school. But then he was talking about how he didn't really need school that much anymore or something, because he knew what he was going to do. I can't remember what episode it was in, but there was something where where they were talking about their future, and he was just like, yeah, this is it. So it was like he didn't drop out because of the end in the last episode, but it was like, okay, he really didn't have that much interest in it anymore. So maybe he.
But then who's gonna take over the old man's business though? Like that's my thing. Because the only reason why they are able to do what they do is because they live off of the fact that the old guy owns like a multi-million-dollar company. Like he owns a conglomerate in Korea. Like he's one of the richest men in Korea. So because he's one of the richest men in Korea who just happened to have been a counter at one point, that is the reason why they're able to run around and do it. So I'm like, if you want to be a counter for the rest of your life, like, okay, so who's going to educate themselves enough to actually run this man's multi-international, like international company so that y'all can continue to do your thing? Like,
well, he's got a thing for Mrs. So I'm sure he's not going to leave.
He's old. He's gonna die at some point. Like he's old.
Die. But I'm sure they'll find somebody to, what is it? Is recount a word? We're gonna say recount. They're gonna recount him.
Recount him.
Yeah, but I'm sure he will set them up so that they will not want for anything, because he has a crush on Mrs. Chu, who was my favorite. I loved Mrs. Chu. She was amazing. I don't know. Would she have been like what is it? The Opa? The Oma? What?
Huh? She.
Mrs. Chu. Yeah, she was great. She was like the mom of the whole counter family, and she was so funny. And I have a question. Why did was it because it was so draining? Like they were saying that her hair changed colors really quickly, but it didn't do that when she was healing.
So the more she healed,
but they were saying that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh no, I'm sorry, but the other healer who came, he was like, it didn't affect him like that. So was she healing too much, or
no? They all got a different like ailment from using their healing powers, right? So that wasn't his ailment, but he still got like, I think it was like body aches or something like that. Oh no, he got headaches. He got awful migraines or something like that. So he had an effect to using his powers, but he didn't use his powers as much as she did. So the more she used her powers, the grayer her hair got, which is taking her life away. That's why he was telling her, like, I won't tell them, but you can't do this forever, because she was slowly dying every time it's kind of like by her healing So Moon, like, she was giving him her life. She was giving him her energy. So every time she gave her energy, it's making her life shorter. So yeah. So I think that was it. Like hers was, you could see her effect by her hair turning gray. His hair didn't turn gray, but then also he didn't save people. Like, I'm sure he didn't have, instances where he was saving everybody the way that she was in her job.
Yeah, because he seemed a little stingy with the use of his powers. Like, I'm not about this. He was a
selfish dude who was made into a counter.
It's like, you'll be all right. I liked I can't pronounce. I'm just gonna say Motak. I liked him too. They kind of, in one way, they kind of had. If there was a stereotypical dumb jock character, it would have been him. That's what I felt like Motak was supposed to be. Was like the stereotypical brute, just the big dummy. But he wasn't dumb. He just couldn't remember any of his life. But I liked him. And Hannah was pretty cool. So I did like the characters, I will say. I thought the character development was really good with the counters. But what about... now, one thing I didn't like was I didn't like, who were the people? Was it Counter Heaven? Was it the other side?
I forgot what they were
what
called.
Are we calling that?
I was hoping you would remember. I forgot what they were called. I didn't write it down. But like it was like their partner, their heavenly partner, or what was it called? Young. So Young was like the heaven to them, right? Like the in between place. And so that would be like their Young partner.
Okay, can we call them the in-betweeners? Sure. I know that's the name for another show, but we're just going to go with it. So besides Mrs. Chu's son, I did not like the in-betweeners. I did not. The old lady drove me crazy. I wanted the connection between her and So Moon to be broken. And because it seemed like to me there was a way that he was even more powerful than she was. And when she realized how powerful he was, that's when she was like, oh no. And I understand that he was reckless and he didn't quite understand, his powers. And in the beginning, of course, he was that kid and he had the sole focus of truly finding out what happened to his parents. I get that. But it seemed like once she realized how powerful he was, that's when she wanted to sever their connections and connect and kick him out of being a counter. So I was like, but I didn't like her at all. And nothing she did or said really ever grew on me. It just as a character, I didn't like her. But I also didn't like how rigid they were, because if your whole thing was if you knew people were evil and the demons were predisposed into getting into people who had evil tendencies, wouldn't you want to combat the evil people to keep the demons from having a place to go? Like, that made no sense to me.
But that would be you playing God.
It's like, not necessarily.
Because it's not a guarantee that the spirits are going to go into the people that you consider to be bad. So kind of counteracting that is a little bit of playing God, like Minority Report.
No, like, I'm not saying, I mean, like having the people, I guess I'm saying it wrong, having the counters fight crime against people who haven't already been possessed. I'm not saying do anything to stop them or keep them from being evil. I guess that's what does that make sense? For. Like but if but they can help with that. They have special abilities. I'm not saying neglect the demons, but they kept saying I guess my thing is when they saw how everything was connected, how the main evil spirit, and I forgot his name. He was a hell of an actor though with his sexy stuff. But the big bad, when they saw him and how he was connected to all these other people who were evil, they may have not been physically or spiritually possessed by demons, but they were still demonic. They still have their tendencies. So it was like, why were you so against them taking down that whole organization when you saw what was happening and how evil was prone to, I don't know, want to be drawn towards them, and you just wanted them to go after the evil? That didn't make sense to me. Like, I thought that they could have, I thought that you would do a better job of just fighting evil instead of just fighting only the demons.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're trying to say. I still think it's a little bit of Minority Report kind of thing on trying to get them before they fully turn evil or they get taken over by evil spirit. I disagree a little bit on so watching it again, because I watched the series twice. And the first time I watched it just for full enjoyment. And then the second time I kind of like skipped over some things, saw some things that I completely forgot the first time I was watching it and everything like that. And the second time around, I understood more where the in-betweeners were coming from. I get how rigid they were. Like, they had done it that way for a very, very long time. And then So Moon came in and he tries to change it, but he's a young kid. Like, at the end of the day, he was not mentally ready to handle the responsibility. So he had a lot of selfish decisions that he made based on his emotions rather than logically thinking of the situation. So Yeah, and I agree with you on when Weijin, who was his in-betweener, saw how powerful he was going to become. She did sever it. But I think also she severed it because she saw that he also had evil tendencies within him. And because he was such a good kid, it was tempered down. But at the same time, when he realized he had all these powers and this super strength and everything like that, it definitely started to bring it to the surface because he was a kid. Like, he was still trying to figure out his emotions and everything like that. So y'all gave him way more responsibility. And then nobody really taught him. If you notice, they taught him how to fight, but they didn't truly teach him mentally how to handle the fact that he was now a counter. Like, there was no mental, like, training or anything like that to handle that. They just learned as they go. But I did like them. The one that I liked the least, even after rewatching it, is Motak's in-betweener.
She was just a bitch. I'm sorry.
She was the most strict, and you realize that she was the most strict out of all of them. Like, she made her decisions unemotionally. She did not let her emotions get to her in any decisions. Like, she was going to follow the rules to the T. If they told her the rules change, then she's going to follow the new rules. But if it's still the old rules, she's going to follow those old rules to her, I guess, disappearing grave. But I like the little kid. I think his name was like Osiko or something like that. I know his first name was Sik. I liked him because it was like he was a grown man in a little kid's body because he had been an in-betweener for so long. So they kind of treated him like a kid because he looked like one. And then when So tried to like pat him on the head, and he was like, "Don't treat me like a kid." And he was like, "My bad, dude, my bad." And he like pulled his head off, like, "My bad." But then when he was dying, when So was dying, like he just got in his kid mode because he was so sad. He called him Young, which means older brother in Korean. So I liked them the second time around. I understood them more on where they were coming from, because I do think in ways the counter started to be more selfish when So Moon came into the mix. He was just focused on seeing his parents again. That was his focus, and he made a lot of decisions, and he put them in more danger based on making that decision rather than taking their lives into account and their safety into account as well. So it made me like him a little bit less when I saw it the second time around compared to seeing it the first. Still phenomenal actor though. Like, he was amazing as the character. They all were absolutely great. But I agree. Miss True was my favorite character. She was a bleeding heart, but she was a badass too. I love that.
Yeah, she was. I agree that, with him being selfish, yeah, it goes back to the teenagers and the teenage him being a teenager, him being so young, and him, being solely focused on just seeing his parents and not necessarily seeing the bigger picture. So I understand why they wanted to tamp down on some of the power that he had. And so I get where Wu Jin was coming from. I don't necessarily agree with the way she went about doing it. Maybe putting him on a break. And I think it all also goes back to what you said about the preparation. Yeah, you taught him how to fight, but no one mentally prepared him for the life of a counter, like what it would be. And it's like no one ever explained to him why. It's like, it's just, and then whenever he had a question, it's like, oh, this is just the way it is, or this is just what you have to do. And it's kind of like he said, no one gave him a choice. It was just like, oh, okay, he's a counter now. So, and it was the thing that was his main goal, and the thing that you used to make him a counter was also the thing that you used against him, and that was the being able to save his parents' soul. So I was just like, everyone was dangling that in front of him like it was a nugget, That's what he wanted. He was trying to save his parents' soul. So that to me was just it was messed up. But ultimately, what did you think about Hannah?
She played her role very well. Hannah was the cool, a little bit older chick, badass. I liked her, but nothing of true significance. I was one of those people, because I kept up with when they were talking about the show and everything like that. I was one of those people Hannah was a hit or miss for me. I understood her purpose, and she played her role very well within the group of counters and everything like that. But I wasn't personally in love with Hannah. Yeah, she was just. I was okay, she cool. If that makes any sense.
It does, and it does, and surprisingly, I agree with you. My favorite moments with Hannah was not when she was being the tough badass, because we got that. She was the tough badass, understood what her life was like and what happened and the things that made her that way. Great. But my favorite moments for her were the more human moments when she was with his grandparents, when he took her home, or when she walked him home and they met his grandfather. And he was like, "Ooh, how do I explain who you are?" And she's like, "Whatever you say, don't say I'm your girlfriend."
Which means that when you said that, you put that only thought in his head, because you didn't give him any other options. It's not oh, well, you could say I'm this, you could say I'm that, or something. No, it was just don't say I'm your girlfriend. Now the only thing in his head is that, well, I don't know what else to call you, so I'm just going to call you my girlfriend.
And then his grandfather was like, "Yeah, okay, come in." And so I thought it was just cute how she was with his grandparents and how his grandparents responded to her. So I like that. Those were her when she was more human and more vulnerable. How she was with the little girl that the little girl and her sister that they found squatting in her old house. How protective she became of them. So I liked her more vulnerable moments than I did with her just always being an ice queen, And I loved the big bad. I loved his character. The actor who played him did a phenomenal job of playing him as the big bad, and you got to see all sides to him. And I think, going back to what I said, his son, who was the main bully in the school, who was a son of a biscuit, seeing his home life, you understood why he bullied, not to the extent that he did, but you understood why he was so fucked up. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not excusing, definitely not excusing his behavior at school and how he treated the others. But I think, how they were saying that the evil, and I guess this kind of goes to my point of when I was saying earlier that they should work to help the people, because the evil spirit at one point took over him. And it's because he had that thought about killing his father, and he was actually going to go through with it until he was stopped. But it's I don't know. But
that wasn't evil. I don't think that was evilness. I think he was an abused kid. Hannah pointed it out when she first beat them up in the alleyway, and she was whispering to him, basically letting him know, she knew the reason why he was like this is because his father beat the crap out of him. So he came in the only way because when you feel weak and you find a moment where you can take control and you can make another person feel what you feel, some people actually take that opportunity, and I think that's what it was. So having a moment of wanting to kill his dad was, I want to say, a survival tactic. I don't think it was necessarily I guess evil in the way that you want. I guess evil in the way that you'd want to kill somebody, but that would be the same thing with So Moon when Weijin was worried, because when they realized that the way that he was calling up the territory was by feeling the anger, the murderous anger that he had deep inside of him and bringing it to the surface. And then he felt that was the only way to bring up the territory, not realizing that, nope, that wasn't it. It was you trying to save the people that you love. So, everybody has that, doesn't necessarily make him evil in that moment. Though.
So that's what I mean when I said earlier about them being more helpful to the people that they see have those tendencies, because I think part of So Moon being part of the reason that he changed is because the way So Moon was so nice to him, and then So Moon's best friend, the kid that he basically fucking terrorized for, I'm just going to assume it wasn't just this year in high school, forever. And when I say terrorized, I mean terrorized. They were downright, God, criminal in their behavior towards it. I mean, it wasn't just, typical bullying. It was horrible, like really criminal what they were doing. This kid gave him shelter and protection and let him stay at his parents' beach house and all of that. So it was just like, I think part of that is what also changed him. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, what if you help these people necessarily that you see are in trouble and not just...
But how do you know they're in trouble?
I guess
if
that
the
was
only
my
thing you ever see is the bullying?
No, I mean, I'm not talking about him I'm not talking about, but
just in general, like, how do you?
I'm talking about,
because when I see real like mean, disrespectful, like, because at the end of the day, it's a bullying tactic. So like when you see bullies, like, people don't automatically think that, they must be suffering on the inside or something like that. So, No,
I mean, no, they don't. A lot of them are, but it's not our job to always psychoanalyze the people who are terrorizing us. I get that. And again, I think I'm saying it wrong. What I'm saying is back to the in-betweeners and their whole, we don't get involved in human problems. Well, if your thing is to combat evil and to keep the spirits from having a place to go, why not go help, why not be like a superhero thing and help the bad people? Does that make sense?
But you have to help everybody, because everybody has that. Like, so I get what you're saying. I just say that at the end of the day, everybody has those tendencies. They like.
Yeah, we do.
But that's what I'm saying. So that's the reason why they said they don't get into human problems, is because at the end of the day, any human can be brought to the point where true evilness will come to the surface. You just got to be put in the right situation. Like if they had, and the perfect example of that is So Moon. When he brought his anger and everything coming up, where he got the feeling of wanting to kill these bullies who had been terrorizing him and his friends. Like, that is moments where an evil spirit can come and take over. If he hadn't already had Wei Jin and inside of him, you don't know if he couldn't have been possessed by an evil spirit as well, while he's having these emotions of, going up against these people who had been bullying him and terrorizing him and his best friends. So it's kind of like they be helping everybody, because everybody's at the opportunity. So that's the reason why they were like, we stay out of human business, like, because you can't solve everything.
But if you see specifically bad humans, you can help that. I mean, I just think if you see the humans that like the one, and a good example is when at the beginning, one of his first cases, when they were chasing the guy who was beating his wife, and So Moon saw the kid, and they were like, no, we're going after the demon. But it turns out that the demon, they were all connected. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like when he saved the kid and they were like, no. So if they hadn't done that, then the demon would have got away and the kid would have died, because the demon turned out to be possessing the kid's father. So, I mean, I think it's just cases like that. So if you see someone beating their wife, or you see someone is a wife beater, then why can't you intervene into those situations? Because that means that they are a bad person. And in that particular case, by their logic, more predisposed to be possessed by it.
They'd never have an opportunity to actually get the level 4 spirits if they were going after everybody that abused everybody else.
I think they should make room for compromise, but that's just me. So we know that there is going to be a second season. So is there something that you did not particularly like about the show? We know what you liked about the show, but is there something that in the second season, where would you like to see the second season go?
To be honest, I don't know. I understand, and I really, really love this show, but once I saw the direction it was going in, and then when I saw the flip of where they changed the direction once it was talked about that they were having a second season, I think that So Moon should have died in the first season. It's an unpopular opinion, I get it, but I think that that would have had a truly great impact on the Uncanny Counter finale. And then when they heard they were having the second season, I don't know where they would go with this, because it seemed a little cartoonish granted, it was it's like a webtoon series or something like that, but at the very, very end, when they were like, you know, where the counters or something like that, and I was just like, okay, so are we going bubblegum now? Are we gonna lessen the impact of this show with the second season? So I don't know. I'm hoping that it's as great as the first season. I don't know if it is going to be as great as the first season, seeing as how the main writer, producer is no longer attached to the series. So I would keep my mind open to what can be brought about with that.
Well, I guess if they were going, what I got from the second season, and the idea that they were going to be traveling, that they weren't going to stay in their same town, which was outside of Seoul. It wasn't Seoul. So I kind of got that they were taking the show on the road. So maybe they would find another town and find a big bad or another. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that it should go episodic where it'd be like a Demon of the Week kind of story or anything like that. I did like the continuation and how they were all connected. So I did like that, but it would be interesting to see what happens when they take it on the road. And it did kind of have that Men in Black feel when they got the new van, and then they got the new clothes. It looked like the Men in Black suits that they had at the end. That was kind of cute, but I guess I get what you're saying. But I don't understand. I guess because I wasn't into it from the beginning like you were, I didn't really see the shift. So where and when did it shift? I guess is what I'm asking.
14. I don't know, like if I can point it out, I think it's because I was following it. I watched it every single week, and I was following the behind the scenes of when the head writer producer like ended up leaving the show, and because there was a disagreement over the ending of the show, which kind of made me think that somebody was going to die out of the 4 counters that was there, and they didn't want to kill them because they became such a popular like thing. But yeah, around like episode 13, 14 is when the shift happens, and it's very subtle. It's not in your face with the change. So if you didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, you would just, be enjoying the show like you did.
Okay, so if that's your theory, then I'm going to agree with you, but I'm going to disagree about the character who I think was supposed to die. I think it was supposed to be Mrs. Chu.
Well, no, because Mrs. Chu, that's episode 11.
I'm still gonna say I think it was supposed to be Mrs. Chu, but I'm glad she didn't. But I'm going to say it was emotional, and I'm glad she didn't, because that was that. But I thought that was her resurrection, even though it was earlier than what you're pointing out. I thought that was taking easy way out, or the writer's way out, I guess. But I agree. I do think one of the counters was supposed to die, but I'm going to go back earlier and say it was Mrs. Chu that maybe should have died. I don't know about So Moon, but or maybe even Motak. I don't know, but I guess I don't know where I would see a second season going. I hope it's not as slow to get started. Again, maybe I'm in the minority who thought that the show had a very slow start. It took me to maybe about the fifth, usually a little bit longer than than it normally takes. But it took me to about maybe the fifth or sixth episode before I really just got into it. Especially the main story. Like I said, I thought that the B story was much more interesting for the first half. Not necessarily the first half, I'll say the first quarter of the season. I was more interested in the B story than I was in the main story. Until they connected it, which I guess was when did it start to connect? About the fifth or sixth episode?
Oh, I loved it from the first episode, so
and of course, I can't remember his name, but we'll call him Big Daddy. I don't necessarily want to call him Sugar Daddy, but Big Daddy, I loved him too. He was also one of my favorite characters. The rich dude, he was their sugar daddy, but that just sounds so bad. The rich dude who took care of them, who helped them, who was in love with Mrs. Chu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was cool. He was really cool.
I loved him, and so he was one of my favorites. So I'm glad that he didn't die. I'm glad that Mrs. Chu didn't die, but she was the one that I thought was supposed to die. And as for second season, yeah, I look forward to see what they come up with, if they will continue to come up with it. They could always do the American thing. We have no problem recasting someone. So if they're going to continue on with that, and his image isn't rehabbed.
Well, second season won't come for at least 2 years, so I'm sure he'll be fine by then.
Yeah. So, all right. What would you rank the show? What is your popcorn
rating? I'm gonna rate it a 4.0. I loved it. What? I loved it from beginning to end. The acting was phenomenal. I love the story. I'm not really a demon, like evil spirits kind of thing. But I love the emotional aspects of it that went along with the supernatural sci-fi aspects of the show. I love how they started to connect all of the characters. It came full circle towards the end on the connections from seeing where his bully in high school. It then shifts to the father, who's the mayor, and you get to really see the dynamics of that.
And he's an ultimate bully. So, he bullied everybody.
I just love the overall show. Like, I anticipated every week, Saturday and Sunday. Could not wait for the next episode to come. I used to stalk Netflix early in the morning on Saturday and Sunday because it didn't premiere until 9. It didn't come until 9 is when they posted it on Netflix. And so I'd be like, come on. I'm ready to watch it. So, so I just absolutely loved it. So I'm going to give it a 4.0. I think it's phenomenal. I'm okay with having a second season just because the acting was so great. And I know they're going to bring it for a second season. But we'll see what the storyline is. But yep, really, really good.
So did you watch it Saturday
and
Sunday, or did you
Sunday, as soon as the episode was posted, I watched it.
Oh, so you weren't patient enough just to do a two-part and watch it Sunday morning.
Mm-mm.
So you that seems.
It was my weekly show.
I don't know. I know, but I don't know. That would be too much for me. I'd have to just wait till Sunday and watch them both episodes. That would drive me crazy. The way, I guess, would drive me crazy.
It's like waiting for a show every week.
And then,
like how when you really love a show and you gotta wait every single week for the show. Like it brings me back to a time. I mean, I love DVR and on demand and everything like that. But I also kind of miss the anticipation of every single week seeing what's coming because, if you didn't watch it in real time, that you have to try to figure out some way to, you know, finally watch the episode and everything like that. So yeah, like every Saturday and Sunday, I would watch it in real time with everybody else who watched it on Netflix. So it was really good. That's how good it was.
Yeah, I consider myself to be old school and nostalgic, but I'm gonna have to pass on that one. I guess I don't have. It's not the instant gratification. I guess I don't know. I know me. That would drive me crazy. I probably would have watched it Sunday, like both episodes, the Saturday and the Sunday episode. But I get what you're saying, and that's really cool. I am going to give it a 3. Overall, I did enjoy it. I do look forward to the second season. I would recommend it. Just like I said, those first few episodes really almost turned me off, and I was much more interested in the B story than the A story. But once everything did come together and all the stories started to connect, it started hitting on all cylinders, and I did love it. The acting was great from the beginning. I did love the rest of the counters from the beginning. Mrs. Chu was always my favorite. So I guess I liked a lot of the secondary characters a little bit more than I liked him in at first. And then I started to, he won me over. So Moon did, but the actor was great, as you stated. So I give it a 3, and I averaged it out. So that gives it a 3.5 overall popcorn rating. Yes, I nerded out again. She's rolling her eyes at me. I know she is.
Good job, Eddie. Good job.
So, that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to join us next week where we talk about The White Tiger. Also on Netflix. Did you know that's nominated for an Oscar?
What, for an international film?
Yeah, I think it's best foreign film. I can't believe I got you to watch an Oscar-nominated film.
Don't be telling people that you got me, because I put it on the list. So I am the one.
I wanted to put it on the list, but I didn't think you would.
I'm the one who said White Tiger.
On the list.
Don't believe her, people. I'm the one who suggested White Tiger. Okay,
that surprised me.
That's what we're going to watch.
So, but yes, so I look forward to that. And as always, we appreciate you joining us, and give us a listen, a like, a follow, and a subscribe on Apple, Google, and Spotify. And check us out daily, on the popcornwinddown.com. Pop, 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 pop. Yes, I'm still working on that sound effect. But until next time,
and I'm Tammy. Bye.